Hi guys, welcome back. Today I want to talk to you a little bit about what a bushcrafter really needs at the beginning especially. So, to start, this is the first thing. You might have already noticed that it's just pocket knives I showed you here, and I think as a beginner it's the most important thing among the knives to have a pocket knife, because I think that there you have more than just a blade, and you've got things like a saw or scissors or other things here, which is really good. And yeah, so you can have a fixed blade if you want to. They are really recommend for beginners to have a Mora knife. It's spelled M-O-R-A. Not only beginners have this, also professionals do. They're really good knives that they make, and they don't really cost too much money. So it's like the most expensive Mora that I know costs less than 50 euros, and they are just really cheap. Most of them cost like 20 euros or less or more. So it's pretty cool. The price is really good, and what you get from it is just really good. I haven't got a Mora so far, but I've heard so many things about it, so I don't want to talk too much about Mora knives. Maybe I'll buy one next weeks. But as a beginner, I really recommend having a pocket knife. So you might have noticed that 3 of the 4 knives here are Victorinox knives. You can see the logo. And why Victorinox knives? Because I really recommend having them, because they have such a good quality they have to offer. Here, this knife is a knife from Martini. You can open it with one hand. And actually for beginners, I wouldn't really recommend taking this one, because it's just got a blade. And it doesn't feel too good in your hand, and aluminum is not really the best material for a grip if you ask me, because in the winter it gets quite cold. So here, this is like a really good pocket knife. This is one of the more expensive ones. And yeah, you can carve with it, you've got a saw in it, and you can just there are so many different Victorinox pocket knives. Which one do you like most? Which functions, to call it like that, would you like to have in your knife? There are so many different types of Victorinox knives. So I say a knife is really important for beginners. So you don't have to have many Victorinox, just one. It's just a few different things here. So next thing, a ferro rod, fire steel. So there are coming sparks out of it, and I say this is pretty cool, but as a very beginner you don't have to have this. You can start with a fire lighter, or with a how to call them, you know, with those big firelighter, you know what I mean, these ones when you type on it and the flame comes out. Things like that is just easy enough, but this is a good thing to have, because it's a good exercise if you start with it as a beginner too. And yeah, there are coming sparks out of it, and not flames, which makes the whole thing a little harder, because you have to create these flames first if you're shooting at your tinder. So it's a little more difficult, but it's a good exercise. If you start to exercise with fire steels as a beginner already, it's very good, because then you already know how to deal with them later on. So why them? Because you've got a fire then, and for bushcraft, in general for the outdoors, fire is something really good to have, because it's not only warmth. In a survival situation, there are a lot of physical aspects, like you feel safer and you get to rest a little bit, and things like that. You can cook so many things with it, or boil water, And yeah, so fire is really important. Here I've got my trekking shoes. They're night shoes. Many of you will not know that they've got trekking shoes, and generally they have only got a few of them. And so I didn't really mean to have Nike trekking shoes, but I saw them and I said, these are great trekking shoes, I'll take that one. And I don't regret it. And here, to the last aspect, and here is where you should also pay a little bit more. Many of you will already have shoes like that. Here, literature. Most of the things that you have to have in the outdoors can really be improvised. So you don't have to have a tarp with you. For example, you can make natural shelters. Of course, this is more work, and that's why many people, so do I, often take a tarp. So knowledge is the very most important thing for the outdoors. And yeah, literature is something good here. Books like Survival Guide, and edible plants, just things about animals, and yeah. So I really recommend paying a bit of money into things where you really learn. Books. There are many authors who are really good. Their books are so good, like Ramirez, or like Cody Lundin, and so many others. So I'm not gonna call all of the names. Moskokansky is Kochansky. I don't know how you say it right, but those are great authors. They've got so much knowledge, so you can learn a lot there. And yeah, that's what you really need. And most things that you can learn from the internet, for example. So on YouTube, there's so many videos. And yeah, that's why I'd say YouTube is a good place to get much information. And yeah, that's it. So you don't really have to pay too much money. You know, this costs like 30 euros or something. For pocket knives, they aren't too cheap, but they have a great quality to offer. Ferro rods or fire steels, I don't know if there's a real difference, because in German we just have our Feuerstahl, so fire steel, and whoops, so that costs like 10 euros. Here we've got our books, but you don't really need to have books. You can get it all from the internet too if you want to. Here we've got your shoes, and that's it. Why do so many people have so much more? Because it's making the whole things easier. I've got much more too, because like there are things like cup, for example, that you should have too. And yeah, that's the most important things. I hope you enjoyed it, and see you next time.